England has stood on Scotland for far too long, plundering and killing everyone. When will we be free from this tyranny? The Dress Act, they did say we're taking your tartan away. The Act of the Union has been such a blow. 300 years under Westminster foe. Scottish resistance I will always be. Scottish resistance, it's my destiny. Family clan, I will wear my tartan. Our heritage runs through our veins, we'll pass it on to our bands. We are in pain and are suffering. This global pandemic is killing me and my family. The corporate giant is giving me minimum wage. My dignity's gone and I'm sitting here lost again. We are told what to do and where to go, who to see by our own society. Scottish resistance I will always be. Scottish resistance, it's my destiny. The family clan, I will wear my tartan. Our heritage runs through our veins, and we'll pass it on to our bands. Rob the poor, feed the rich. Well, isn't life such a bitch? How can we live this way? The Tories are here to stay. My Scottish pride, I need to decide my ancestors' pain. For my gain, I should hang my head in shame. We are to blame to let Westminster rule our brain. Scottish resistance I will always be. Scottish resistance, it's my destiny. The family clan, I will wear my tartan. Our heritage runs through our veins, we'll pass it on to our bands.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Scottish Resistance Chat Show live from the Scottish Resistance community page on the 3rd of October 2022. Let us first um, say hi to everybody watching. John Sweeney, Nancy MacGyver, Stuart Cram, Owen Hay, and Owen, you were here today. You were here today. I'm glad we caught it very quickly. Um, we got Nancy Lillian Evans. Hi, Lillian. George Neve, and those are the names that I can see now. If I don't mention you, it's not because there we go, some new ones. Jock Gibson, Gavin Gowans. Yeah, those are the ones that I can see now. All right. Before we start, for the people that have watched, uh, no, let me skip that for a bit. First of all, let me introduce the panel to you. I'm completely forgetting. It's so stuck in my mind what we did last Wednesday. So let me first introduce the panel to you, of course. First of all, Anita King, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, thanks, Raymond. Thanks for having me back on.
Oh, great having you on again. And
Uh,
then, as James would call him, Thomas the Rhymer, Thomas McArthur, how you doing, mate?
How you going? I'm a regular face now.
Yeah. And somebody new to the show, but not new to these shows. Greg Dempsey, how you doing?
I'm great, Raymond. Good to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Great having you on. Um, Now I'm going to continue where I left off a minute ago. Um, if you've watched last Wednesday's show on the People's Doorstep referendum page, um, I wasn't hosting the show. I did do a wee rant um, on the show because, and I don't care what everybody's going to think of me, but something needs to change. If only a few people only come on here to cause havoc and just lash into certain people, and when you're all of the time told, please stop it, we need to band together. And if you can't do that, then this show has no, and the other show have no place for you. If we ask you politely to stop it, and you don't, like I said on Wednesday, you can get to beep fuck. And I never swear on the show, and Daniel's not in with a swear jar. So, but it is going to stop. I'm not even asking anymore. It is going to stop. And the trigger that did it for me was happened on the Bladder at the Bar 2 weeks ago, where um, one person, and I'm not naming names, I'm not here to out you. I'm not doing. You have to do it on your own. But is that it was her first time, not just hosting, but also broadcasting the show. And during the Bladder at the Bar, she was lashed into by one person. And that is never, ever going to happen again. If it is happening again, you're not even getting a warning. You are going to be blocked permanently. And some might say, well, that's your thing, blocking people. No, it's not. From here, I've only blocked one person, and he's even back. So he knows who I'm talking about. That was not the person, by the way, that did that. I'm not saying that. But it comes from both sides of the political spectrum. So I'm not saying as an ALBA member that comes from the SMP watchers on there. Hell no. I'm not saying that it comes from the ALBA side of it. No. There are people on here that are even non-political. It has nothing to do with either one of these three things. Hell no. Has to do with common decency. And if you can't bring up the common decency that we all want here, you're gone. And that's the final warning. So, I hope you guys will have fun on the show, guys. Sorry for that, but it just needed to be said on this show as well. And but let us move on with the first topic, and that's how about an early Hollywood election as a plebiscite election instead of a GE. Now, Greg, that was your input as a topic.
Yeah.
Would you like to start us off on that?
Yes, yeah. I want to just go back to when Nicola announced the date for next year, the 19th of October, and when she said if there was no referendum, we'd then have a plebiscite general election. Now, there was about 4 or 5 of us in the Kirkcaldy Yes Hub at the time, and we were discussing it. None of us particularly liked the idea of having a plebiscite election, because what we're doing is we're playing by Westminster rules. We're actually alienating a huge proportion of pro-independence supporters, 16 to 18-year-olds and EU nationals.
Yeah.
So on the day, I said, no, we'd be better having a plebiscite Holyrood election. And it was pointed out, well, that's not going to be for an extra couple of years and all the rest of it. So it got me to thinking, had we have gotten a supermajority back in 21, we'd have no problem. We could dissolve the parliament and have an election. So since then, I've spoken to a couple of people who have a far better parliamentary knowledge than I do. And there are ways of calling an early Holyrood election. And basically what would happen is the SNP would resign as a government. It would then be up to the next largest party, which is the Tories, to form the government. But as long as the Greens stood in solidarity with the SNP, they could vote that government down. It would then go to Labour to set up a government. And again, solidarity between the SNP and Greens, they could vote it down. And to the stage where there was no government in place, there would have to then be a Holyrood election. And at that point, we could fill Holyrood with pro-independence MSPs, and that would be the cast iron guaranteed mandate to go and start negotiating our independence. And I prefer that. I'd much prefer that to a general election. Because as I say, a general election, it's Holyrood rules. We'll never win independence if we play by their rules. The establishment are well versed in what they're doing. We need to think a wee bit differently and use. But when I brought this up the other day, someone says, you're playing the system. We're not playing the system. We're using the system to work in our favour. In the same way that if it's a general election, it works in their favour. So my personal view is that we won't get a definitive decision from the Supreme Court. I think they'll say that they can't give a judgment on a hypothetical. So the way to go is, if we're not going to have a referendum on the 19th, is to go for an early Holyrood election.
But wouldn't you think that if they're not going for a referendum, then that's it for the SNP as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, they've been, even Chris Law on Saturday at Edinburgh said that there's no shortcut, he said, actually. He says the only way is with a referendum. Now, we could hold a referendum. I mean, the Supreme Court says, no, you can't have one. We could still hold one, but then it's going to be on dodgy ground. We could end up spending years going through the courts to find out whether it was legal or not. So if the Supreme Court in 3 weeks or whenever it is turns around and says, we're not given a decision or the decision's no, we do have an alternative now. We could hold an early election. And it's what Nicola actually said, if you think about it. She said, if there's no referendum, it'd be a plebiscite election. So my argument is, rather than a general election, let's have a Holyrood election as a plebiscite.
Oh, good point. Good point, definitely. Anita?
Right. Well, I agree. A Holyrood election would be far better than a Westminster election for the reasons that Craig has already said. But you wouldn't want IDOCs counting the votes or anything like that. It would have to be completely controlled by us. Well, no interference with Westminster or anything, nothing whatsoever. But anyway, apart from that, the SNP government have got mandates, multiple mandates, to have a referendum. Now, the claim of right is Scottish law, confirmed. Regardless of what anybody tells you, the claim of right is Scottish law. Claim of right means we, the people, are sovereign. So we have the authority above Westminster, we have the authority above Holyrood, and we need to use that authority. We have given the SNP umpteen mandates and they haven't used them. So they are actually unlawfully not giving us a referendum. It's unlawful what they have done. Scots law is protected, the law is the claim of right, and they haven't done what we sent them to do. So they are actually working unlawfully.
No, definitely. Thomas, your view.
My view is as well, if the High Court says no, then does that mean that Scotland is a colony? And if we are a colony, then we can get decolonised with the European. Yes,
UN.
yes, and then they can go in our favour because no one has a right to stop the democracy of the people, and it's the people who are wanting to have. We're only asking for a vote. I mean, who knows? It could go the wrong way, But I personally believe it's going to go the right way this time. But we wouldn't have been in this mess in 2014 if people weren't brainwashed in the first place. But and then obviously, so my thing is we just the claim of right, like Anita was saying, that's our key point. And also the ruling, if they say no, then we're colonised, basically. You know what I mean? And and we can go to the High Court on that, the European one. So that's we've got lots of ways to get through this. There's lots of ways, lots of doors, lots of avenues.
It's like Sarah has said, Sarah Sawyers. I mean, you can basically look at the Act of Union as a marriage with a prenup. Prenuptial agreement. If one of the parties in a prenuptial agreement doesn't adhere to the rules in that prenuptial agreement, the other one can get out. The Act of Union clearly states a union between equal partnership. That has never been the case. So by that, in default, it could be just null and void in my book. Technically, well, I don't know. Practically, it won't work that way, but technically, it does. She has a point there.
Undoubtedly, Sarah is saying, when she's right. She's done a huge amount of research.
Yeah.
And what's solved? I mean, we're just talking about the claim of right, and I'm not going to give anything away by what I'm about to say. But Sarah, through the research she's been doing, has found out a hell of a lot more than just the claim of right. Scotland has been getting shafted for 300 years, and this will all come out shortly. This will come out shortly, just how badly Scotland has been treated. As far as breaking a treaty, they've ignored a treaty. They haven't broken it, they've ignored it. So, I mean, what I was saying there about a plebiscite election, that needs political will for that to happen. The claim of right doesn't need political will, it needs a popular uprising. And when people find the true extent of just what the claim of right is, there will be a popular uprising in Scotland, of that I can be assured. And I am confident. I'm confident to say that we will see our independence through salvo rather than a political solution.
Definitely. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just agreeing with Craig.
All right. People, you see the site down below, www.salvo.scot. Sign up. And absolutely right. By the way, Thomas, Jock Gibson had a comment. Not a case of brainwash. The referendum was rigged.
Yeah.
Well, Yeah, I do agree with him. It probably
Mhm.
was rigged. Well, not probably, it was rigged. But it is in general by the BBC, like the brainwashed people, being the mouthpiece of the union, of
Mhm.
the Tory government, but also Scots not getting learning their history in schools.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's where the brainwashing comes in. So yeah, Jog, I do agree with you. It is. The referendum was rigged, definitely, but it's a combination of things, and brainwash definitely comes into play when you look at schools and the media and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And Project Fear
Yeah.
definitely came into play there as well in 2014, well, 2013,
Oh,
2014.
well, that's what happens in colonies, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely.
You're not allowed to know your own history, etc., etc.
History is created by the victors.
Yeah. And it goes
Mhm.
back. It goes back to, was it 1747 when the government banned the wearing of kilts. They tried to do away with the
Mhm.
Gaelic language.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
decolonisation. That is what a coloniser does. They take away
Yeah.
the identity of the people, and that's
The,
been happening
We
for
had
yeah,
centuries.
and there was
we had to
actually
speak the Queen's English at school.
yeah, and there was actually one thing that was historically correct. I'm guessing in the movie Braveheart is where the king said um, the problem with Scotland is it's full of Scots, and why not then breed them out? And he introduced back the prima nocta
So you're not there. Yep.
and to breed the Scottish out of the Scots, and that was one of the things, and that's yeah, it's stuff like that, and of course giving money to the nobles. That's another thing that, and again, the brainwashing. Um, Anything that anybody wants to add on this topic?
If there is to be a plebiscite, it's got to be the amount of seats won, not over 50% of the vote.
Wasn't it 50% plus one?
Well, that's what Nicola's asking for in a plebiscite.
Hmm.
There's got to be over 50% of the vote. But in any general election or whatever, whoever wins is who's got the most seats, not over 50% of the vote. The Tories are in there with 38% of the vote.
Yeah.
That's just putting roadworks in the way.
Well,
That's playing by Westminster rules, and that's what we
yeah,
can't do.
exactly.
Aye.
That's true. When
Yeah.
exactly was the court date? Did it the ruling, the High Courts?
About the 15th, 16th of October.
15th, 16th. All right.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not actually 100%.
Keep an eye. We should keep an eye on that.
15 to 16.
Yeah. All right. Right. Let's move on. Sorry, I'm still having a bit of a cold, guys. I know I'm sniffing, and sorry about that, but I'm still I have a bit of a cold. Let's move on to the second topic, and it basically flows from this one. But what do we all think is the best way forward towards independence? And yeah, we touched on it in the first topic. Uh,
One word, salvo.
there you go.
That's how it's needed.
Yeah,
Salvo.
Getting the word out to people, getting the truth out, is probably another way as well, so that people know exactly what has happened. Like, keep Gordon Brown in his crib. You know what I mean?
well, I think
getting
best.
people.
No, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, get people more keyed up than they were. I know people that are more keyed up now than they were in 2013 and 14 because we didn't have so many groups that we've got now and so much internet, and people are wising up, But it's people who are still on the edge, like they're on the fence. They're the ones we need to convince as well, But the Tories are actually doing it for us. They're making more people come to the yes side than anyone else. and especially with
Definitely.
all this crisis we're going on, you know what I mean? What was
Yeah.
man-made by Tory, and they're just blaming the bloody war in Ukraine, which is a load of garbage.
Yeah, that's
It's
crap.
man-made,
That's crap.
and people start to understand this because we're getting the word out more, you know. But like
Almo-
you said, it's against the BBC and the big machine that keeps ramming in bad Scotland, how our NHS is the worst, how how poverty is the worst, drug is the worst, drug levels. You know what I mean? It's always Scotland bad, so we need to kind of just keep people reminded that we are doing better than the rest of the UK.
Almost
That's what
every almost everything is getting blamed
yeah,
on the war in Ukraine. By the way, at this
yeah,
point,
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
no matter what happens,
yeah.
it's always it's the war in Ukraine. Well,
Mm-hmm.
um, I keep saying the best way forward towards independence, and I've been advocating this for years, and you're probably getting sick of hearing me the same shtick all over again. But that is unity. If we don't stick together, no matter if we have a referendum, no matter if we, um, you know, go to a plebiscite or whatever, if we don't stick together, there won't be because we will only be fighting amongst each other. There won't be independence, and I'm
It's what
sure of that.
yeah.
Greg.
It's what a colonizer does. It divides and
Yeah,
conquers,
exactly.
and that's exactly what Westminster are doing. And I'm an Alba member. I was an SNP member. I left because I wasn't happy with the direction the party was going. So I'm now an Alba member. At the end of the day, I still support Scottish independence, and
Exactly.
that should be the overriding thing. We're all actually on the same side. We just
Yeah.
have different views on how we're going to get there. What I'm saying now is, Nicola Sturgeon a while back said time is on our side. Time is not on our side now. People in this country will die this year. Kids will go to school hungry because of Westminster policies. We are a rich country. We need to get the true facts out. We won't get it from the BBC or from the mainstream media. So it's up to us as individuals to go out there and talk to the soft no
Yeah.
voters. Give them the
Yeah.
facts. Facts over fears. That's the way I look at it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
And
we
I would
need to get out there.
yeah, and I would also encourage people to not take anything anybody says, even us, for at face value. If you are doubting on certain topics, subjects, or whatever, look it up. Do research yourself. Get
Yeah.
knowledgeable.
It's all out there.
That's what they fear most of all is knowledge about stuff.
Yeah.
Don't just look it up. Anita.
Knowledge is power, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
There's
that's
loads of information out there.
yeah,
Loads.
Yeah,
tons.
Raymond, can I say something as
Yeah,
well?
sure, of
I
course.
mean, I've, someone I like a lot and respect a lot seems to be putting up some bad, negative stuff on when I read a blog that obviously I wasn't happy with. Like they're blaming, like they're saying Sturgeon this, Sturgeon that, and to me they were causing a rift between all the parties. I mean, to me, we need the SNP to get us over the line. And after that, we can change whatever government we want. If you're not happy with somebody, we can change them. But you can't start degrading and downing
No.
people at this moment. And this is what the aim or the message, the blog I saw. To me, it was like I just couldn't believe this guy would be saying this because I didn't know he was very political. But and he can't. To me, he can't start downgrading.
No.
Saying Sturgeon this,
Exactly.
Sturgeon that, blah blah blah. If you're not
Exactly.
happy with the person who's the top of the leaderboard, I mean, we can
Exactly.
always change them at the end of the day. But he's saying, like, we need to. I know we need to stay united, like in everyone, and we can't start a rift between different parties because that's going to break us up.
Definitely.
I'm really
Definitely.
mad with it.
I could not agree with you more, mate. I mean, I'm an Alba member. I used to be an SMP member. I'm an Alba member now. But I keep saying, without the SMP, it will never happen. And that might sound strange coming from me as an Alba member. but it is not strange because it is like they are the largest party, the largest pro-independence party. If everybody would turn on the SMP and they would drop the case, which they wouldn't, but just saying that they would, just see how many votes, pro-independence votes, you basically lose, whether it being in a plebiscite election or regular election or whatever. It is gonna go wrong. We need all of us to band together.
I mean, one of the things you're saying there, Raymond, whether it's a plebiscite or a referendum, whatever, that it doesn't really matter. That needs political will for that to happen.
Exactly.
When you look at what Salvo are doing, and as I said, there's a lot we're finding out more every day that Sarah is researching. Salvo doesn't need a political will. What Salvo needs is a popular uprising.
Yeah.
And that is started with Liberation.Scot. And then it actually, Salvo will take the independence question away from the politics of it and give it to the people by using international law through the UN, through the either by decolonisation or the defamation of treaties. So the SNP they're the leaders. There's no doubt about that. If we go down a political way, we need the SNP to do their job. But there is an alternative, and that will become more clear over the next couple of months. On the 1st of September, Salvo started a process, and it's a process that's recognised in international law. And you'll get people, and I've heard it, who will say, "Oh, what does a dusty old document mean?" Well, that dusty old document was upheld by the new king at his sensation when he said he would
uphold. He swore an oath to uphold the claim of right.
Yeah, which was ratified in both parliaments. So it's a document. It's all right. It's 300 and whatever years old, but it's relevant today, and that, in my opinion, will be what gets us our independence.
Yeah, I think it's the way to go as well. Definitely. By the way, Anita, we got a comment on the chat directed at you from Nancy McArthur. Oh, you saw it. Your T-shirt.
I'm just replying to it, but I'll just reply here instead of typing it out. I wore it especially for you, Nancy.
All right, cool. All right. Normally, right at this point, we would have James doing the week in history, and but as it's his week off today, he asked Thomas to do it on his part. So Thomas, the week in history.
Well, today's week in history is the Battle of Largs, 1263 on the 2nd of October. And basically, Alexander III, the Vikings were basically invading Scotland and plundering for like 500 years. And Alexander basically prolonged the meeting because they had talks on the Hebrides and the Isle of Man and stuff like that. So he prolonged the negotiations until the winter. Then, when the Vikings ships were in the Firth of Clyde, the stormy weather destroyed a lot of these ships, and then the negotiations broke down. They attacked, and basically the Scots managed to win the day. So I actually wrote a poem last night, Raymond, on this subject. So my poem, I'm going to say it first time, is basically a lot to do with the history of what with the Battle of Largs. So let me have a wee go and try and say it.
Yeah, go ahead, mate.
On this year, 1263, the Vikings would disappear off Scottish soil in turmoil. Alexander III, on the Firth of Clyde would take King Harold's bride. The Scottish clans would win the day. The 1st and 2nd of October, Viking boats would be blown over. That was the end of 500 years of Northern Viking deprivation and invasion. Alexander got it right. The Scots would win this fight. Norwegians ran away to battle another day. Orkney Islands, they would retreat. In the cold winter, King Haakon would not beat. He died. King Magnus would take his crown and stick around to sign the Treaty of Perth in 1266. Norway would lease the Hebrides and the Isle of Man. Alexander had no intent to pay the rent. The Vikings had nothing to say. Internal fighting was in their country. Alexander claimed these lands. They became Scotland's. In 1912, Largs would build a tower to pencil the day. The Vikings were in disarray. The Battle of Largs won't disappear. It's part of Scotland's yesteryear.
Very good.
Good, man. Good, definitely. And that's
So
your first one.
Yeah, live one.
Yeah. Well, first live one, yeah. I mean, and you've been doing tons of songs as well.
Mm.
So, I mean, you've been writing songs now for a little
A
over a year, yeah.
Yeah.
And about 250, 270, something like
Oh,
that?
300.
300 already. Damn,
Yeah.
in a year.
Raymond, can I just add a wee thing there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just Alexander the Third. If anybody knows Burnt Island and Kinghorn, Alexander the Third's monument is halfway in between. And the story goes that he got a ferry over from Edinburgh and was rushing to home to see his young Danish bride. And as he was riding along there on a stormy night, he fell off his horse and died. So Alexander the Third's monument is on the roadside between Burnt Island and Kinghorn.
Yeah.
A wee bit of added history there for you.
Yeah, cool.
I remember I put a yes stone on it one day.
So, Thomas, was that all that James had sent you? On the
Basically, I had to Google a little bit of the stuff that I was going to look up on, but I can't remember. I know he sent me something, but I don't know where. But basically, that's the kind of stories I got from the internet. Was that basically they fought and they win, but he sent me something, but I didn't write it down, so maybe you might know it, Raymond.
No.
Okay. Well, that's what I've came up with anyway. So
Well, you did a great job, mate. You did a great job.
What I'll do is I'll put it on Facebook, this poem,
right,
later
cool.
on as well.
Cool, please do. And now every time James is not here, you're our go-to guy now, mate.
You get a poem every time.
All right. What we're going to do now is play one of Thomas's songs. Like I said, he's done over 300 songs now in about a year. I don't know where he gets the time, but damn, and the talent, of course. Thomas, this song that we're going to play now, it's about another people that we basically remember at the Battle of Butte, I think it was.
Oh, the Men of
Raimond,
Butte. The Men of Butte. Yeah.
Okay, give us a wee intro to the video that we're going to play?
Yeah, was that William Wallace battle, and the Men of Butte? I can't remember. They stood behind John, and when his body fell, the 600 men wouldn't let the English, basically the English, take his body, so they stood around him, and guarded his body, but at the end of the day, they all got massacred. So it's a 600 brave men of Butte. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to play that and hope you guys will enjoy it. Here we go.
Sir John stood on Falkirk Field, with sword and shield was slain. Loyal men stayed and fought, they circled around John as he laid on the ground. Loyalty cannot be bought, pure heart and honor abound. 600 brave with English all around. They would all die in vain, they never got home. Men of Butte, Field and Glen would go support Wallace's men. War at hand they did stand. And children with the spear recoiled, hold them dear on Falkirk soil. Their blood did fall, their lives they gave. 600 brave as they fell. Freedom they yell, freedom they yell. The women of Butte wait with grief and pain to hear if the husbands will come home. Once they knew their men were slain, they would hang their heads in despair. Mom's sons did die, children did cry, children did cry. The brave men's lives cut short, so hard they fought, so hard they fought. Men of Butte, Field and Glen would go support Wallace's men. War at hand they did stand. And children with the spear recoiled, hold them dear on Falkirk soil. Their blood did fall, their lives they gave. 600 brave as they fell. Freedom they yell, freedom they yell. Men of Butte, Field and Glen would go support Wallace's men. War at hand they did stand. And children with the spear recoiled, hold them dear on Falkirk soil. Their blood did fall, their lives they gave. 600 brave as they fell. Freedom they yell, freedom they yell.
All right, everyone, we're back. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm not sure how you could not. We know his song, so. um, but yeah, great, mate. And pretty soon, I'm not sure exactly when we're gonna do it. Probably somewhere early December, probably. We're gonna do a special on Thomas's music again. So just so you know, you've been forewarned. But now we're gonna move on to our um, final topic, which technically might have changed a little bit. The topic was Liz Truss slashing the economy. Now it might say Liz Truss attempting to slash the economy, but then again, she'll probably find another way to do it, right?
undoubtedly she will.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, she was on Laura Kreuzberg, whatever you call her, yesterday, and she was doing a tin pot Margaret Thatcher. I'll know this is the way to go. You know, this policy is correct. And this morning, 7 o'clock, I put on Sky News, and it's been reversed.
Yeah.
My personal view is that Liz Truss has been put in there as a pliable idiot for the establishment. A lot of people have made a huge amount of money last week when that pound collapsed. And strangely, 3 days before the announcement, hedge fund managers have a meeting with the Chancellor. Surely that's insider trading, which is illegal. It's a criminal offence. It'll be interesting to see if anything comes with that. If the Labour Party and Keir Starmer had anything about them, they'd be at the police saying, hang on, we want this investigated. I don't think it will happen because they're as much establishment as anybody else.
They're part of it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's made a lot of people very, very rich. But at the end of the day, it's us that are going to pay for it. It's the poor.
Yeah.
You know, the billionaires have made all this money and they won't even give a £20 increase in the universal credit. Shocking. Absolutely shocking.
What was shocking to me, it was shocking to me, and it was not shocking to me because that's just what they do. So it shouldn't be shocking technically, but it's just how blatant they are openly saying now more money for the rich.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Did she not drop Did she not drop the 45p tax allowance today?
Yeah.
Yes, there's done a U-turn.
Yeah, We're doing a U-turn now. Yeah.
Because there was mutiny in the Tory party.
Well,
they deliberately trashed the pound so that their hedge funder pals could make millions upon millions upon millions on the short pound.
It wasn't the first time, and it was the first time that happened. A couple of years ago, I think 2019, 2018, not completely sure. It might have been 2019. When I came over, it was actually announced that at the airport, Glasgow, at the airport, the pound and the dollar were at the same height. Outside it wasn't, but at the airport it was. So it was the first time that happened. And probably won't be the last.
So that's what I was just about to say. This is, you know, if as long as Tories are in power, they'll look after the rich. They're not going to care about us.
Yeah.
You know, no care. And this is why I am so keen on Salvo and it being a popular uprising that wins their independence. Because Westminster are grand masters at colonising people. They will put so many obstacles in front of us politically that will be tied up in knots for years going through courts and all the rest of it. So we need to get popular support, and the way we do it is through Salvo, through the UN, through the EU, through the European Court of Justice. To me, it's a no-brainer. But the Tories, I've got to be honest with you, Raymond, I was shocked that they'd done it because I couldn't believe they were that blatant, and then they done it. So, yeah.
Yeah, because she literally said it to give tax cuts to the super rich. I mean, exact her words. So that's this. So yeah, you're right. We were shocked that not that they're doing it, but that they're saying it. That's what's shocking, that they're saying it. Anita, what? Sorry.
Just
yeah. Go ahead.
I seen I think it was a tweet today that I seen. The fact that they've capped the energy price is going to cost £140 billion. That it's us that's going to pay that, but there is a certain amount of advantage to the poorer people with that. £65 billion had to be put into pension funds, the Treasury to buy government bonds, which is what pension funds are. That 65 million was profits made by people shorting the pound that we will also have to pay for. Where is the justice in it? There is no justice. And we still get people like Sir Douglas Ross Andrew Bowie yesterday saying, well, yes, well, we'll have to see how we'll vote on it. Bollocks. People will die this year because of their policies. And people need to wake up to that, and people need to start uprising. We need to be on the streets. We need to be supporting strikers. You know, we need a national strike to, you know, just to do something rather than sit back and take it every single time. Sorry, I'm going on a rant there.
No worries,
you're
mate.
fine,
You're
Craig.
absolutely right.
I was listening to Mick Lynch this morning, and he's right. And we all need to get out there and do what we can.
Yeah.
I mean, the Tories are robbing the poor to give to the rich.
Yeah.
I mean, the English should get out there as well, because it's affecting them as well, more, probably a little bit more than us. You know what I mean? You know, like we get the SNP do a lot of good quality stuff in Scotland for the budget we're on, and England are not getting that. The kids are starving, they're going hungry, they're not getting free prescriptions. You know, they don't get childcare, they don't get elderly care as much as we do, because we pay for a little bit higher tax, and we don't want to cut our taxes. And then that way we don't want to cut what benefits, or what, not benefits, but what we actually pay for. Do you know what I mean? If you can't, and now that the Tories want to cut the Scottish budget, I think it's 5% up to 15% in 3 years or something. They want to cut the Scottish budget. So unless we get out, you know, we're just going to see more people dying and dying, and it's just we really need to do something. People need to wake up. This is our last chance to get away from this.
The good thing that I'm seeing is more and more English are now even saying that they think Scotland should go on its own, and for that matter, England. They need to break free from that Westminster rule. Every single country in the union, the union is just on its hind legs at this point, and it's just ridiculous that people still, most of the people that are still 100% behind the union are in some way or another benefiting from it. But what the weird thing is that there are a lot of people that are suffering from and still supporting the union. I just can't, for the life of me, fathom that. For the life of me.
Yeah. On Saturday at Edinburgh, Robert McAlpine made a fantastic speech. If you can watch it on YouTube or any of the channels on, you should look at Robert's speech. But Robert actually turns around and says that the UK is nothing more than a giant Ponzi scheme. And he's right, because for the past 50, 60 years, all they've been doing is selling off the assets that belong to the people. And now there's nothing left to sell, so they have to create things. And it's a giant Ponzi scheme. We need to out of it. It's Scotland that is financing the union.
It's like you said, Craig, time is not on our side.
Definitely not.
We need to get out of here as soon as we possibly can.
Yeah. And another scary thing, we talked about this before, but another scary thing was like about 3/4 of a year ago, we already talked about people like during this winter, the coming winter, that there were people having to choose between eating or heating. Right now, we're at a point. We're at a point where it's both. It's not either one, it's both. And that's a scary thing. And then you got the Wicked Witch of the West, or the South now really, basically even having the gall publicly to state that she wants tax cuts for the rich, but in the same breath basically cutting whatever things you can cut. It's mind-blowing to me that still people think, yeah, that's a good idea, let's go for it.
Yeah, and Raimond, James is saying as well, we need to get more protesters with the, with the Scottish resistance, because I know I wasn't there, but it's just the usual people, James, David, and a few others, Paul and stuff like that. So we need to get, even when they go to the, to the Bank of Scotland and stuff like that, and the electric companies. We need to get a few more guys, like a bigger number, if possible, to join and show our solidarity and get
Definitely.
together. So yeah.
Definitely. One thing I do want to say, and that's James and I talked about, and you were there as well too, I think, Thomas, is
Yeah.
that we do see an increase in people coming to the events, coming to the protest. And that's a really good thing that we're seeing, but we need more. Like James said, we need more activists on the streets protesting. Yeah, the events are great. The rallies, the marches and rallies are fantastic. I've been there. I've spoken at some of the rallies, and they are fantastic. But that alone doesn't get us there. We need protest as well, and we need more people to join us in that fight, in those protests. And if you want to help, if you want to come to events, uh, um, just holding stuff and just or speaking or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you want to help us out, contact James either on his personal page or through the Scottish Resistance page, and yeah, tell us, tell him that you want to help out in what way you can, and it will be highly appreciated, and it helps you as well. Um, well, we still have minutes to go, so let us, yeah. Anything you want to add to this topic? Greg, you said, are we going to talk till midnight? So if you still have something to say, go ahead, mate. We still have time.
No, I mean, I get really frustrated, and I actually get angry now. But part of what I'm doing just at the moment is I'm speaking to people who are in need, and when I think of Scotland, Scotland is a hugely rich country. Let's not forget that, and we have people who are going to food banks. My local food bank showed me a thing a couple of months ago. In March of last year, they spent £3,000 on extras for their shelves. This March, they spent £22,000 to fill their shelves. Because what's happening is there's a bigger demand, but people don't have the money to put stuff in. That is not sustainable. But what has happened in this country is we've come to accept food banks. We've actually accepted. It's us that are wrong here because we've allowed food banks to become the norm. I read on Saturday, and I think it's a community hall in Dundee. They're now calling it a warm bank. That frightens me. The fact that we are having a community hall that is going to put on radiators to allow people to sit in warmth. That is shocking, and we are at fault for allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
What you said there about protesting, I 100% back up on that. We need to protest. We need to cause them hassles. People have to listen to the people now and get out there. Like the festival coming up this Saturday. Let's make this the biggest festival there's ever been. I think it's the first one. Let's make it the biggest rally at George Square's ever seen. Let's show the people who actually want something done. Because if we sit back and take it, they will continue to give it. And it's us that pays for it.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
Anita. It's not just food banks, heat banks, there's baby banks, there's school uniform banks,
Yeah.
there's every kind of bank under the sun. It's an absolute disgrace.
Yeah. I mean, I am happy. It's going to sound weird, but I'm happy that they are there, but I hate that they're needed. Because if they wouldn't be there, then we would have been in this problem way sooner.
Yeah.
But the fact that they are needed, that bugs me the most. It really does. It's just sad.
I mean, look at the Indie Cafe 2 and that, and the people that helped to support money and raised, was it £1,600 for the homeless and the food in Glasgow. I mean, that's great work from Nancy and that. You know what I mean? Just
Definitely.
Yeah, just terrible that we need to be. We're one of the richest countries in the world. You know what I mean? one of the richest in Europe, and we've still got
I think
more
we're,
food banks
I
than there
think
is
top
McDonald's.
five. I think top five in
Yeah,
the world.
definitely. But we're still a third world country,
Yeah,
basically. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable. It's
Yeah.
really bad.
definitely.
You know, one of the things that constantly gets brought up by the unionists, and I watched it last week on the BBC debate night, or as they call it, is drug deaths in Scotland. We have the highest drug deaths in Europe. Well, it's all right saying that, but why do we have those highest drug deaths? Why do people have to resort to drugs? It's because they've lost hope. And this started back in the 80s with Thatcher. She killed off communities. She stole the hope and dreams, aspirations of a generation. It's that generation now that are the drug addicts. And it's only going to get worse. If we continue the way we're going, poverty it'll drive drugs, it'll drive alcohol, that'll lead to mental health issues, it'll lead to crime. And that shouldn't be happening in a country as rich as Scotland.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
And does England not no, like Scotland puts the data on drug deaths in hospitals and stuff like that, like with alcohol and that, but England they don't give the right data. So that's why they seem to say we are higher, because they don't give the right data on deaths that are caused by alcohol and stuff like that.
A different way of measuring drug death.
Yeah.
For example, in Scotland, if you die because of prescription drugs, that's also classed as a drug death or whatever. They measure it differently.
Yeah. So that's why they say they're the highest.
Yeah. All right, everybody. You hit the clock.
All right.
We've come to the full hour, to the end of the show. What I want to do now is, like we always do, is go around the panel for final comments. Anita, your final comments for today.
Join Salvador.Scot and sign up at liberation.scot. It's definitely the way to go. Definitely. And it should unite everybody. No politics, no parties, just unity.
Exactly. That's what needed, definitely. Greg, your final comments.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Anita said. You know, I honestly believe that we will gain our independence through the work that Salvo's doing. And please, this Saturday, the Eskimos in George Square, turn up. Salvo's got a stall there. If you've never heard of what we're doing, come along, talk to us. We've got leaflets, we've got booklets, and get a copy of the Edinburgh Proclamation. Come and talk to us, and we'll explain what we know so far and what we're finding out. Because honestly, what we're finding out is it's eye-opening. It really is.
It definitely is, Craig. Can I just add to that? There's some of us will have tablets with us at George Square, and we'll be able to sign you up to liberation.scot there and then.
Brilliant. Thomas, final comments.
Yeah, basically, stick together. Keep your party politics in your pocket. You know, we need to, if you're Alba, Greens, SNP, we need to stick together. And the most important day is the voting day, when we get around to that. And you know, at the helm, you know, we can always change the leader at the end of the day. But basically, you know, we need to unite and keep the fight going, and get out to the marches as much as possible.
Definitely.
And show, you know what I mean, show solidarity. Yeah, and look after your neighbours if you see them. You know, if you've got a little bit extra cash, a little bit, feed them, keep them warm, bring them in for a cup of tea if possible. You know what I mean? Try and communicate together, be more of a community. That's what I would want to do.
Yeah.
You know.
Exactly. And I would like to add to that, unity. Keep the unity between ourselves. I mean, I've seen this rift between people. I've seen that between friends and families, longtime friends and between family, and that just needs to stop. And I honestly believe that, and I'm sorry if you don't agree, but if you cannot let the petty things go till independence has been achieved, you don't deserve to get your independence. That might be a tough one to swallow, but just think about it. We need to stick together to get independence. So if the only thing you can think of is to lash into each other online and just for people being in a different party, then you technically are fighting against the fight for independence. And that's why I say if your only goal is to do that online, then you don't deserve it. Please remain united in the fight for Scottish independence. That's what I want to leave you all with. And the final comments. Uh, Usually James does it, and he does it a lot better than I do. And I'm not going to go full volume like he does because there's someone in the next room here. But this is the Scottish resistance, and we will never give up the fight for Scotland's freedom. Good night, folks.
Good night.
Right.
Right.
Good night.